sorry, we were getting everything set up. Is my audio okay? It's last round it was cutting out a little bit, so just let me know if you can't hear something. And we'll have a workshop. Okay, cool. Does everyone have it? Cool. Scenario 1 is stability. Extended nuclear deterrence can never be credible, so it can't prevent crisis. No perceived special reduces the risk of nuclear war by skill until multiple CS successors. Channel 192 declared if you will see reducers to Russia, China was considering crisis living concerns by U.S. first check or card national offer changes limiting first check posture product capabilities and G7 warfare strategies to target eligible limits criminal modernization reduce risk of unauthorized accidental unauthorized state to use strength and strength credibility use optional lands option if you criminal states to Russia follows nuclear the question capabilities to services research and nuclear war related to the British will increase the chance in nuclear isolation. The plan's operational shift credibly signals to resolve prohibition body 21 states from more strong capabilities and actions that are current attention experience and nukes do not turn over lines for increased shooting or house to confidence in beginning rather than such the U.S. capabilities for italy hacking leaders in the U.S. and Asia use federally Russian China use special to stability forces more difficult to achieve consistently Arsenal Russian China more attached capabilities and intentions U.S. and a few without reduction in weapons relatively meaningless tech advances ensure mistakes at every facet of the arsenal fighter in Zola 21 tech developments which very good source on nuclear denial blowing offense and defense missile defense rate incredibly different way threatened adversaries nuclear systems major advances being asset being undertaken includes CV assays hypersonics tracking sets and ASAS the cyber attacks at sea and interfere with early warning communications regular C and C for AI facilitating autonomy and autonomy systems increase accidents and discussion isolation reach politically bad caution nuclear relations assistant and WL challenge first strike stability. Scenario 2 is China aggressive posture roads nuclear stewardship that structure consists like an Papa Benedict in over 23 years by China nuclear state declaration nuclear use first leading edge about discussions to stability CBS and trust reduces social about roads cooperative relations studies and repair other states that are dangerous value to combat chance to amplify modernization value increases like different crises and risks of use prevents isolation leave nation nuclear stewardship and transparency for us the U.S. and U.S. transparency for United States away nuclear war but need to prevent people to stability capacity while assessments when it's essentially fear such as sovereignty space puzzle warning the central state war China asking rapidly China respect U.S. intentions such as U.S. mistake Chinese preparations is straight first that prompts Chinese modernization Frabble et al. 23 China rapidly extending modernization arsenal construction has to be accessed HTV and slowly China nuclear fourfold increasing fear China's the building of a strategic break out China's strategists suggest response to which 18% threatening changes in the U.S. nuclear strategy reflecting security limit China where say U.S. threshold for nuclear use capabilities destroy China's forces many experts including Chinese who are most substantial nuclear abilities to doctrines for the political world achieving China's perceptions of lack of transparency field worst case assessments feed arms race increasing fear U.S. engage in limited use to promote escalation of low intensity conflict nuclear war capabilities stands for ability with China first strike LW strikes it so this is not only highly distinguishing China and TW clearly to away a sensible ability facing U.S. capability systems but road to political stability in China and also LW risk significantly make potential accidents risk calculation greater nuclear expansion feels attention China's planned influences nations in U.S. strategy dangerous cycles set off major nuclear arms race that makes more notable shots in 18 Chinese nuclear Russian sources stability especially to and a few official monsters in the barriers towards warfighting for structure review production capabilities on settled for production shift perception when viewed as an essential challenge Henry uncertainties and capacity made a challenge for analysts to determine Chinese strategists or cause become more open official publications as well authoritative open source related Chinese nuclear limited warfighting strategy and warfighting posture needs over security through conveying and given capacity with reinforcements against base capacity based on Pennsylvania nuclear doctrine increase the risk of deterrence to cause China press to become a self-fulfilling prophecy. This question is to explain China's structure of the question and a few which traces with reservation police project conditional so that they are doing Charlie correspondence first nuclear strike. The plan is necessary and sufficient mutual ability through NFU is the only thing that gets China on board. Lockheed 21 NFU opens meaningful compensation arsenal China president U.S. on NFU who remains supported especially at hands of the work at NFU China unlikely to engage in nuclear issues exceptions applicability provides the basis for relative discussions without vulnerability political ability there's no discussion to be forced to accept U.S. and indicate ability to retaliate combined with first use of the single U.S. states to not each other rather than choose equal China's response is to increase the capability of nukes and short that second strike counter sole set up on also 18 attacks by China and or Russia U.S. nuclear nationals are highly effective to run and ability to diminish to adoption and if you use in retail are highly credible nuclear assurance last year that will lead to retail deterrent the U.S. must be confident to destroy all nukes Japan resist the U.S. and Japan not believe that can be credible deterrence rate is that Washington U.S. would use nukes to attach any shift necessary to worst because only one against U.S. one SCS is a nuclear conventional missiles in U.S. nuclear second conservatives first strike trigger retail willingness to use the risk of first accessories with accidental isolation under credit nuclear retail conventional capabilities confidence to eliminate need to threaten use independently advised Sino Indian arms facing DOS 23 nuke Chinese solos in India is considerably high. Thinking about China, and mass China, and single death nuclear conventional could be dangerous for potential branches of first from China and Korea and India. Nukes will go on not going to notice China's response to the US. India's response to China also from power could have implications. Indian government equivalence presented view is a threat to stability. Coast nuclear market 22. China and India develop nuclear capabilities by disappearing different stages, cascading security limits, increasing arms system across the nuclear threshold missile systems. IRFE challenging versus matching India's relationship with China's uranium miscrash. For 4 decades, tensions influenced relationships and the rivalries complicate the challenge. 6 years, Southern Asia to nuclear war. Scenario 3 is Russian nuclear actions with a single most important factor of Russian dollar perceptions. Failure. 22 U.S. nuclear policies reinforce the utility which Russia has lead the threshold against Russian pretensions and increase likelihood of accident risk of triggering nuclear war. Actually changes surrounding lower nuclear auction space. Concerns the U.S. seeks a lower use threshold. NATO experienced Russian nuclear attack. Russia concerned exacerbate nuclear combination and control isolation. Parallelization. Russian LSW nuclear crisis not be aggressive and United States as well. And current climate catalyst military drill exercise Russia decline. CBM's prevalence of dual systems increases. Raise weapons and infrastructure indicating heightened nuclear threat perception. So LSW Washington about the assassination. They forced Putin to develop a suite of disabling technologies to secure survivability strong. In all 22 Russian threat in the first strike concerns of Columbus Russia established a significant counterforeseeability in the U.S. and convinced Moscow that she will go back me using that as soon as possible. The U.S. has considered consequences of Russia. Concerns about its Russian Moscow develops a suite of capabilities such as concerns Poseidon, Avangard, Sarmat, Consol, missiles, Baratovik, Alexander Series capabilities add instabilities, increases in the prospect of complex assets, new systems, successively develops, ensure ability to retaliate context of counterforce launches likely to escalate, and body 21, capabilities, more physical capabilities, they somewhat to surround the complex, engage, and to escalation, conventional war abilities, watching closely about operations, if designed to solely help conventional investing, action nuclear forces, harsh reactions may proceed, escalate intent, lack of war awareness, and when Russian and Chinese under risk, potential leaders, and escalation, Russia's very reason, leaving supposed to be deliberate, Russia strongly held confidence, ability to control, escalation, create false sense of security, incentivize dangerous pursuing strategies. Thus, the plan the United States should adopt a nuclear no first use policy about issue is building, adopting, and a few notices followed from India, Pakistan, and 19 U.S. first use lessons from India, Pakistan systems to manage the situation of nuclear free valley, Pakistan nuclear use and use of nukes first use to deliver strategy, which turn to one nuclear suit as they further use in India will launch massive retail policies, build their own plan to destined America's southern until the U.S. changes how these spread nuclear heard of other states within the position Pakistan and retaliate for America, so they can use first reach to feature nuclear technology and James hints on the U.S. Nuclear ambiguity makes crisis management impossible. The 1-822 India was in nuclear risk in Tibet, Boston, the period for house strike, accidental last minute, big auto shopping, mishaps during power war, crisis, escalating expense, and never large organizations for out of control, and willingness to learn, rebels through hotline, testing, speed, station rivals, the big house incentives, minimally burst, drivers, minimally slack, and crisis, reaching nuclear weapons, early zone of imminent escalation, immunity, make crisis more dangerous, U.S. will take role in de-escalating, maintenance and nuclear shield, place in trouble, de-escalating Southern crisis, help develop business vegetables more practically across the U.S., mitigating consequences of crisis, specifically the plan induces restraining Pakistani for deployment, TNWs and C3 delegation to court, 16 first use as little use as military tools, use as MT, is through an offshore chain targeting other powers, can be across TNWs, counter India's superiority responsibility of nuclear first cycle, the first use of people, Pakistan encouraged to avoid technical nukes through requires salvation, CNC, increase the risk of miscalculations, that penetration watching instead of stage 17 per stage first use such, centers be less likely enemy avoids need for what Atlantic India, decided also policy lane close to U.S. auction, possible to see U.S. the position of states decisions, U.S. the coalition nuclear armed states adopting at a view, Pakistan for limited TWs and C3 delegation makes nuclear threat to inevitable 17. Commanding control position delegate of enable rapid assembly movement to learn more and the risk of delegate destruction being avoidable, hyperbole, flying the hero government, or terrorist and challenge to exercise control over situation operating. United States after has not to risk of threats, terrorists do not really global consequences, Pakistan arms related to other stations, strength the state, unrestricted, threats to international peace, bring with India insiders, transport battlefield technical weapons, expect Pakistan's worst dangerous set, former head of Pakistan's Sudan Iraq arrested for leads to Al-Qaeda discussions, possibility of developing a nuclear weapon, makes several attempts to retain nuclear weapons and nuclear materials, IBT divisions, hiding for such nuclear scientists for Pakistan, army officers, provide access to nuclear weapons, weapons, easily. Pakistan's nuclear threshold insiders are clear is real incredible. Nuclear terror cause extinction, Brodo 22 nuclear arsenals to reliable, MX does not take into account the possibility of accidental and unauthorized nuclear switch and nuclear terrorism, setting away state of industry which will no return. Weakened Pakistani NC3 makes for nuclear first use threshold, Arsenal 23, current landscape different challenges nuclear stability was increased over weird weakened CNC unavoided deterrence, making overseas and attacking, permit retail and sort of framework to hyper control data to produce some price escalation to stability questions, emerge to sense to nuclear CNC systems provide better understanding of what to manage crisis, reduce risk on war escalation in the US, manipulate state how other countries manage its nuclear forces, deterrence mathematically fails well. 23 humans are fallible, misdemeaning attached failure, communications leak, info de-escalation can be assured, accidents and taboo attacks to be less than surreal corruption, full commanders misfire and continue heavily used in the chance that nation with very realistic image chance for possibility is above zero, likely the will occur becomes mathematical certainty, supplementing systems, miswork perfectly, committing gambles. I'm good for context. I don't know how we want to do it given my situation.
So what we should ideally do is both computers are like volume off, and we.
Do you think that they'll be able to hear you through. Okay, sure.
No.
We
I
can check
mean,
with each other.
if we both mute our volumes,
Okay, yeah.
then Hamza should be able to hear us.
Okay, cool.
regardless.
That makes sense.
Okay. So I imagine you can hear Serena. Hamza can probably hear me. So okay, we've got a thumbs up from everyone.
Mm-hmm.
All right, great. With regard to advantage one, which ongoing conflicts escalate? Like, what's the scenario for conventional conflict that results in crisis, instability, and gets to nuclear?
Sure. So in the context of China, we think that there are plenty of disputes that could escalate, but it doesn't have to be in a specific arena. Rather, the threat of U.S. first use is what drives China to escalate and vice versa. In the context of Russia, we think that they could escalate territorial disputes, specifically in Ukraine, nuclearly because of U.S. interlucid pressures. So China-India arms racing, it would be
Okay,
over
let
territorial
me ask a
disputes.
follow-up question about both. So is there a specific territory that China is going to take?
We haven't made a claim in the money stage.
Yeah, we think modernization broadly makes more inevitable, but we do think SCS, Taiwan,
So,
are like
okay,
hotspots that
China-
could collaborate.
China modernizes. China modernizes. Who launches a nuke after that?
Either China or the United States.
Why would China launch a nuke?
China would launch a nuke because of use it or lose it pressures, or they perceive that the U.S. is preparing for attack.
So wait, okay, use it or lose it pressures. So the United States has enough nuclear weapons to obliterate all of China's nuclear arsenal. That's what instigates use it or lose it pressures. Why would China willingly enter a nuclear war that they know they'd get destroyed in?
The whole point of use or lose it pressures is that China doesn't want to enter the war, but they see them having no other option because they think obliteration is happening regardless.
So why wouldn't they just agree like, hey, the United States, I'm not gonna actually take Taiwan, I'm actually not gonna take this territory, etc. I'm just gonna act defensively to avoid
Because
nuclear war.
that's
Why would they
not
capitulate to whatever?
Yeah,
they
that's
That's
not-
not how states operate.
That is
They-
actually exactly how states
It's
operate.
not how they operate.
It's so irrational to just launch an all-out strike at an adversary when they have nuclear
We've made a-
superiority over you,
No,
right?
we've made a ton of claims about how the threat of U.S. first use makes nuclear use appear rational because they perceive
I
preparation.
know, this is a very
for
surface level
Also-
explanation of
Also,
conflicts.
quick
but
clarification thing.
again,
Also, there are scenarios of conventional wars that go nuclear. If you want to ask
Yeah.
questions about that.
Again, I'm confused about what conventional war starts.
Conventional wars going nuclear. We've already said hotspots could escalate. Our argument
Which
says that
hotspots?
entanglement. SCS Taiwan already been mentioned. Those would escalate because uncertainty and entanglement between conventional and nuclear assets, which is the third scenario that I wanted to highlight.
Second, so Russia. Ukraine escalates?
Yeah, that's one of the scenarios for escalation. but
So
the other
who
are
launches a
more
nuke?
specific. Russia could launch a nuke.
Why
the
would
United
Russia
States
launch a
could
nuke if they win the war? Is it Russia loses the war?
The argument is that entanglement, the war in Ukraine makes Russia on high alert. Then U.S. nuclear ambiguity means that Russia is developing unstable
Why doesn't
technology.
NFU solve any of that?
NFU stops potential U.S. first strikes, which is what drives Russian modernization. Our evidence says that Schrapp says that modernization is what causes
A
Russian
no
loss
first use policy
because of bad
just
technology.
changes the strategic calculus in a state's mind, but you've made a bunch of arguments about accidents, miscalculation, etc. None of which is addressed by a no first use
A no
policy.
first use stops first use, which is why Russia is scared. Russia does not develop modernized technology.
Let me just ask a
the US
quick
cannot
question
do
about
it
the second
stably.
advantage. So this arsenal piece of evidence at the very bottom, weakened Pakistani NC3 makes nuclear first use rational. Is it that Pakistan launches a nuke, and why would they do that?
So the scenarios here would be low-level commanders could escalate nukes because they have delegated launch authority, and then also that in conventional crisis they'd use nukes because they're the secure
Against
state.
who?
India.
Got it.
Okay. It's been said. It's been said, orders were off in the case.
You don't want to be.
Yeah. Thank you. Four off, the first advantage, then the second advantage. Is anybody not ready?
I got it. Give me 1 second to get my doc.
Okay. Let me know when you get your.
Thanks. Okay, I'm good to go.
Awesome.
First, also Calvin, the Joint Chiefs of Staff ought to recommend the United States on top of nuclear no first use policy. The President first G states recommendations is politically costly to oppose recommendations that other regions are hollowed out for and winner. For two, civilian leadership for military expertise, military leadership for military leadership for military policy, military competition, those presidents and presidents of the sources politically challenging to oppose military advice and military to align, and recommendations are key to a healthy hybrid model that preserves warfighting. Chavez and Gannon 23 lost grace content to military warfare and the policy policies domestic restrictions to be more social military One war fighting solutions like the health department, military, Audrey 4-minute image, isolated decision makers, and that solves existential threats. Lee and Mongulis. 23. Youth tactics that are major security and requires coordination. Next off is a disadvantage. NFUs perceives weak on China by both parties. Gold. 21. After a moment, turn back to NFU policy, but exclusions that reportedly shipping by the enemy to clear only see the China wheel or side have strong. Desire to reduce the world's use of good cars, combat will get change the whole life insurance to make adversaries nervous, and that forces a compensating escalation on trade flow. 20. Biden will let them see how to China the peace issues the policy how I have to go to policy like energy connections to the general barriers to the for policy to some political opportunities to deliver responsibility setting resources to global trade and emerging global business with steadily decline. Germany pressure will continue across which issues enabled by the president because the Americans will get up on base from the economies that this Biden taking a hard line given the views across the political sector Biden the continuing quality prices will look at as a strong firm line across the trade and national security, and Biden will head off the escalation tariffs now, but caving to China's hawks triggers the repeal of the permanent normal trade relations, which spikes inflation, prevents a soft landing, and turns cases on 24. Yellen's and American global administration relations repairs posted proposals moving to a major toward a new tariff following the growth tariff levels of the foreign positions facing counters from pox and tariff increases that media cuts from inflationary events between the soft landing she emphasizes working together to outcrop economic security or ties the church the reputation of the stability of the world, and soft landing failure from renewed inflation caused extinction from poly crisis. Dodwell. 24. Forecast predicts soft landing, decision pains and crisis under control, decision threats, media to America, that's individually more dangerous than outcome. Economic barriers to the geopolitical, economic, tech, short run, inflation, medium to war, cost of death in higher area, race triangle, family, career, climate mitigation, political practice, interact, challenging ability to cope with threatening catastrophic taking points. Next off, disadvantage. NFU emboldens China to invade Taiwan, escalates the US-China war, including cyber and space attacks in Model 21. Debating NFU has a position to Taiwan, NFU devising the potential conflict global events, legal isolation, accident, for the US and absolute US, someone was lead management to China, the Alpha aggression is used, NFU, consistently will continue to deter force to Taiwan, the East Coast, Turkey, so use and response to conventional attacks and use to Beijing was not one of the assault Taiwan, nuclear strategy, regards to conflicts at US, NFU, Germany, Civil Armies, and conscious based on US territory, NFU, did not credible nuclear signaling results to be war, burden of different strategy for a while, they like to use only necessary routes out with the chief defense and ensure the fighters may be out to deter for the same reason attacks with the possible different trying to attack with the means of the scientific use my energy policies of New York, global effects of combined nuclear and other forces generate a robust turn and extinction. Boom. 23. U.S.-China artificial crisis struggles to currently conflict worst case scenario. Two say we lack of exchange, carbon war games, as up to the confidence in the Beijing one considering use to conventional feed threat carries around the invasion could then see powers to turn because we the governments and use defensive against China ready to strike conventional the immediate use of to avoid its judgment but China British action rational very powerful problem only to avoid use 1940 with new governments and to US to trying to avoid US provocation. Next stops disadvantage. NFU causes a permanent troop deployment in Eastern Europe. NATO allies and Baltics would demand it as the price of reassurance. Art 21. NFU would undermine commitments to allies and NFU might divide NATO to counter allies to be active in the country and NFU engage active in the NATO coalition. Some will worry about Russian incursion. NFU strongly opposed additionally would act in the will Moscow to observe the options for the challenge to enhance conventional relations with three considered calculated trade insurance Latvia may see as a bargaining chip for water permanent US presence in the Baltic stages, and permanent deployment in the Baltics causes nuclear war. Perzard 20. Enhanced force posture could increase escalation US forces pushing to defend associated with the increased military use of the US inside Baltic states, so might be restricted to provocation China versus US treaty nations to target lots of force in the US. Baltics may lead to more disputes and provocations where they may normalization NATO troops in the Baltic states because it's NATO, making rotational deployment factors like these like Russia willingness to use nukes in response to anything into Russia. Nuclear isolation might be part of the major change of Baltic after forces Russia may lead to situations of nuclear attacks that can enable them match NATO. Combine the conventional struggles and Hamilton combines that even defense maker is a president of Russia could prevent the nuclear attack. Crisis stability. One is NFU's never credible, costly, 21 proponents believe restrictions civil activities have been only 3 years ago, so 4 cases of NFU for failure, greatest possible benefits, crisis ability, so should believe that the term that bleed fully China India, acquisitions, arsenals, very credible NFUs, arsenals, size of the roads, possible creative, mobile NFU, China India, critical cases of the release of does not believe China NFU does not provide benefits in the best case in the light for the US. 2 is that no scenario for conventional coffee in the one you see, there's no reason why we would ever escalate or why adversaries would ever escalate. 3 is conventional all cause, we have conventional weapons pointed at Russia and China, that replicates crisis stability, which causes them to lash out. 4, yes, crisis stability, nuclear weapons make war unthinkable and tactics jeopardize second strike. Rose 23. nukes changed, and national policies come off the short city, go to the opposite of the wars, how the other cities are going to be massive one massive attack wars, like the great according to English, absolutely mutual legal session, or with us before separating wars to the British to bring investigation of the behaviors of Nokia is not without can be deterred. And 5, use it or lose it. Pressures make no sense, reject it, chronic. 18, actors may use the loser perception to deter with integration. Seriously, with the ability to have a if your state would have weapons and eliminated launch cross avoid the have initially launched nuclear war against steel technical capabilities and the severe state launches of guarantee to somebody's been wrong to the has been launching nuclear weapons of terror sources of opponents and international theories want to believe the US and nature of China would have the experience which lost first nuclear crisis would be so worried that at least nuclear war they start nuclear war the argument does not make sense. 6, accident scenario is fake, flutter and all about conventional weapons, not nuclear weapons. And 7, no US accident launcher hair triggers, crisis don't compound the risk already. 16, Kim models launch decides to guys launch responsibility sound warnings this calculate US and launch technology session policy the launch technical student presents the enemy's decision responding to government's US nuclear force not hair triggers that could lead to accident launch during crisis. And 8, no instability crisis with no crisis instability with China. GM 23. Charts and jurors attack of countries believe calculate China's money war and some of the global evade with the necessary use of China's able to deter rival lists with more defense and nuclear weapons training nuclear bombs active. Keep trying to warn think about the US leadership so the US will team I want to say without we trying to use China also not to vulnerable person no matter who is an edge in the attack. And 9, no impact to Chinese nuclear modernization. College remember. 23. Somebody reacted to the Chinese nuclear changes that they want to the nuclear posture attacks to the nuclear revolution makes sense the same as the man's good. Talking about the US and normal situation care about countries opponents culture nuclear revolution China's normal changes and prices and reaction to the use nuclear posture particularly the US trying to force China gold on new positions but as a vice research and not trying to risk taking this which is the US not I'm changed that to go through operational policy open from research about the secretary of office threat secret nuclear forces to take back home to do China escalation. 10, arms racing is inevitable. India races arms race with China now and China develops ICBMs in response to Russia and India's defensive measures regardless of US development. 11, low level violence between India and Pakistan is inevitable. It never escalates. Gambia 22. Pearl Harbor was crucial. India Air Force record that Pakistan was commanded and the United States and overseas international forces did not control the part of the loading paradox. The paradox is stability strict level in the lower stability legal balance and legal order lower crisis and the stabilities and lower balance of the crucial and the level levels of I think what else is managing the exchange between two not guarantee restraining competence is right. The two allied agreements at the time and reducing risk from accidents stabilize at level violence most of the second strength at the strength level is expected to increase. 12, no instability from Russia to Brazil. 23, Ukraine is on failure of nuclear turns Russia alliance the new capacity order the decision as the extender Persian Russia's emphasis avoid realize new evidence we live reward CGC opposite of Russia's not carefully target any no country Russian risk highs made rare of nuclear supplies it is a great team decision lack of Russian West taking done as sort of partisan only to ambiguity threatening overcome flexibility also allows flex norms. 1, the app isn't sufficient. This is an advantage to disarm not NFU. We must begin the nuclear debate by citing TPMW. We're reading yellow beyond 19. There's international treaty that the use of the global leads and use and also the debate needs to be another understanding of the threat and use will be a crime against humanity that any policymaker lose power when consider a war criminal. 2, ambiguity is inevitable. It does help de-escalate and impact conflict. Low warning. 22, once survivors though you do inspirations that the word that immediately fast signals made. It is the nuclear things that are allowed to possible to claim victories and harm and comment to the US that's catalyzed pressure on Pakistan to release. The pilot of Pakistan considers that the US pressures on the back of this region on space and the S 3 is Pakistan won't collapse. There's no impact even if they further deploy TNWs. They're resilient right now. 4, nuclear terror is inevitable. Mueller impossible. Mueller and Stewart 21. Terrorists stupefying irrationally and individually serious that's very conflict of terror more probably killed drowning about queue. Fridays different reports of all the terrorists single terror nuclear warnings failed domestic was no one got near its low risk of attacks and criminals who take armed materials setting up tasks rolling that is the runners still true and no attention or able to the weapons by the not control leaders off of all terrorist group he's about equipment frenetic shooting frenetic shooting. Cut Mueller and Stewart at shooting.
Okay, cool. Are you there?
Yeah.
Turn off your volume.
Yeah, I can do that. I'm good.
Okay. Status of the off.
The status quo is always the logical option.
Net benefits to JCS is just internal.
It is internal, correct?
Okay. What evidence says that the executive listens to the JCS in the context of nuclear policy?
You would say that the Fringe and Winder evidence indicates that the president would defer to military expertise.
The evidence is in the context of things like troop deployment. Why does that extend to a change in the nuclear posture that's existed for like
I think I disagree with that. It's not just about troop deployment, but it's rather about how, in total military expertise, civilian leaders often listen, and it references like Obama
okay.
as the empirical example.
The protectionism facade.
Yeah.
What's the impact to self-landing failure in this evidence?
Polycrisis lists a
Polycrisis.
bunch of different things. Like,
Sure. Polycrisis, it identifies pandemic preparedness and climate change mitigation.
Yep.
What is the mechanism for the U.S. to solve those things absent soft landing? Or in a world of soft landing?
So how would they solve it in a world?
Yeah, what's
with
the
soft
mechanism to
landing?
solve pandemic preparedness and climate mitigation in the slope?
Money helps solve problems.
Money
That
helps
would
solve
go towards
problems.
Solving those problems.
Okay, so
It's
if
like
money
some-
solves climate change, how?
You would invest in like renewable energy, maybe. I don't know, like what specific vectors that this
Why can't
government
we
would
invest
do.
in renewable energy absent soft landing?
Because there would be no money to invest.
Why can't, okay,
There would be an economic.
There would be an economic crisis. There would be no money for the government to use.
okay, the troop, or the European troop, whatever, just the other dissad.
Yeah,
We have troops deployed in other, or permanently
It's not.
stationed in Poland.
it's not true.
But it is true, we have, Germany has troops permanently stationed 1,000
They're not
miles from
permanent.
Russia's border.
We have troops there. They're on a rotating schedule. They're not permanent. Our own
Why?
evidence indicates that a permanent conventional troop presence in Europe would trigger Russia.
I mean,
The
we'll see,
swap-
this evidence is from 2021, but so it's in the context of just the Baltics?
Yeah,
That's
it's
the
just the
scenario?
Baltics.
Okay, so the evidence, the orange card or whatever,
Mhm.
also says that stationing troops in Poland would be bad. Is there an impact, like, how does the squiggle
Our
with that?
our scenario is about Poland. 2, it's hard to debate this when you have not read evidence that there are permanent troop deployments in Poland. Arguments that
If
they're
there
not,
are-
they're on a rotating schedule.
If there
and
are,
not permanent.
okay, if there are permanent troop deployments outside, no.
Still
that's-
doesn't no link or thump the dissent.
The deterrence decide, what's the scenario, or why does China invade Taiwan post now?
So, wait, post-half?
Yeah.
Because they would be emboldened to do so. You don't have
Like, what's the
credibility of first strike
calculus,
anymore.
is the question.
So China looks at the US and is like, okay, these people are getting weak, they don't have first strike anymore. This is the only time we're gonna be able to do so. Let's go invade Taiwan. They launch a conventional attack
Okay,
on Taiwan.
Okay,
They lose the conventional war, then sparks into global war.
okay.
Cool, we'll take prep, starting now.
Oh. Thank you.
Cool, stop prep. 150 east.
Before you send it out, I'm just gonna quickly go to the restroom. I'll be-
Cool, sounds good. Alright, the dock should be good to send, I'll send it out with caution back. Should we get an iPhone charger? Nah, okay. I'm just trying to figure out if I can get this one.
I'll have one that connects to the Mac,
that'd be great. These are not connecting with mine. Thank you.
Yeah.
Cool. Document sent out. Okay, so Rick, just to be safe, can you mute in your end, just so...
Am I not muted?
Yeah, I don't think it's that okay. Okay, order, let me know if y'all get it. Order will be advantage 1, crisis. Advantage 2, modeling. The JCS counterplan. The Eurosurge Baltics deployment disadvantage. The China deterrence disadvantage. And then the protectionism disadvantage.
Well, I think actually my computer might just.
Is your computer
I
okay?
might open a blue talk, but I think I just have to restart.
Okay.
Can I get the order?
Advantage 1, advantage 2, JCS, Eurosurge / Baltics, the China deterrence, protectionism.
Okay.
Give me 1 second to fix it.
Yeah, take your time to get your stuff fixed.
I'm gonna repeat the order just to make sure that we're on the same page. Advantage 1, advantage 2, the JCI plan, the Eurosurge DA, the China deterrence DA, the protections DA.
Yes.
Alright.
Okay, everyone good to go? Yep. Okay, same thumbs? Alright, in that case, the thoughts and we get started. Cool. Alright. 1 and T1 and is credible and won't be rolled back. A that operates restriction deck wasting great political cost that ensure first strikes from either be impossible, which is Hannibal Reed, Padilla, and Perkovich evidence B that dialogue and CBM signal seriousness and ensure communication of intent, which is the Kimball Benedict, and Taylor evidence. 1 and T2 is wrong. Our evidence says that hotspots are likely to escalate kind of conventional conflict, but we don't need to win conflicts. Or hotspots escalate rather than modern nations unanimously stabilizing the rules and minerals and conflict and potential for first strike, and both sides view the other side of potential aggressors. 1 and T3 conventional is not the root cause of conflict. It does not pose a threat of the destabilizing first strike, which only evidence speaks to. Our evidence includes adversaries are uniquely feared in nuclear first strikes, which are evidence solves. 1 and T4 breakdown is true. Nuclear threats create uncertainty about second strike potential. The Bell evidence concludes that the statistical guarantee talks about how things like human viability, lack of information, and incomplete or faulty data all make that breakdown inevitable because there's always uncertainty about intentions and theories of aggressive first strikes always result in conflict. 1 and C5, yes, use lose the pressure, especially true for our scenarios, which we play below. If nation states know if an attack is coming, they'll use weapons first because they'll try to de-strike and defang the U.S. arsenal before they can do anything, which drives use of lose the pressures and spark conflict. However, independently, we don't need to win use or lose it. Armed racing and faulty LW technologies are all conceived internal links that circumvented countries may not want to go to war, but receive signals of incoming strikes or conventional nuclear arsenal and joining the affirmative followed by making it so other countries know the U.S. will never launch a nuclear attack first. Group 1 and T6 and 7, they're not about conventional forces, it's rather cites AI, nuclear command and control, which already evidence speaks to. AI collapses, deterrence, and guarantees accidental first use, which is insulated from whether NFU is credible. A is that tech advantage, missile defense, cyber attack, and ASATs all decrease the nuclear threshold and modern first strikes. Even if they don't, the perception results in overreactions and breakdown crisis ability, which unique reasons the white doesn't solve the status quo, which is the federal evidence. B is AI, autonomy and integration in the CNC system, means that A will make nuclear use happen from the U.S. striking first because of technical areas, which is the federal evidence. 1 and C8, China war is coming down, escalate, preemptive theories, force entanglement, and modernization uniquely make nuclear use national miscalculation and lower use special ensure escalation, which is Johnson, Benedict, and Fraser evidence. Hotspots does not mean that conventional escalation conflicts won't occur. Evidence speaks to hotspots being likely to happen now, that both sides will be incentivized to use first because they feel that conventional strikes are nuclear and attacks on nuclear command and control. 1 and C9, yes, modernization has an impact, makes irrational escalation likely, all explained above, because even if it's not intrinsically aggressive, it does make the U.S. fear China and drive arms racing. 1 and C10, it's not inevitable that Indo-China arms racing occurs. It's driven by only Chinese nuclear modernization. 1 and C reach card 0, contesting that low-level violence between China and India is uniquely likely to escalate in a world where India is modernizing to catch up to China. 1 and C11, it's external to U.S.-China war modernization, drives Indian arms racing that guarantees action reactive cycles and intensifies conventional conflict, which goes due to its DOS evidence. The 1 and C red impact defense to India-Pakistan conflict, not Indo-China conflict, which means this impact is gone conceded. 1 and C12, yes, Russia war, the risk has never been higher. De facto open conflict over Ukraine, lower G threshold, and forces Moscow destabilizing modernization and launch and warning that guarantees external launches that Taylor Schropp and Bainey evidence. Their evidence does not assume the adoption of destabilizing technologies like Russia, which make war inevitable because they would perceive U.S. conventional strikes as nuclear. Next year. 1C1, yes, modeling India and Pakistan draw their first use from U.S. doctrine evidence is reverse causal. Past deals fail because the U.S. refused to change its own nuclear arsenal once again. And backer evidence to re-highlighting it, so nothing concludes would be better for the TPNW, but concludes that anything was sufficient because it would rethink as to how the U.S. does nuclear deterrence, which is what our evidence speaks to being sufficient necessary to solve their nuclear postures. 1 and C2, ambiguity is existential, does not assume low-level commanders escalate, which only evidence speaks to. Modernization, fear of preemption, and going tensions are all independent warrants by miscalculation accidents are likely, which is the market evidence. Their defense is wrong, does not assume weaken Pakistani NC3 report deployment, which our DOS evidence proves. 1 and C3, the theory was not state collapse, it's about looting nukes to the bad command and control and forward deployed TNWs. 1 and C4, yes, Pakistan lose nukes, default to high-risk pandemics over generic bureau evidence that doesn't have the word Pakistan in it, forward deployed TNWs, and collaborates with jihadi elements enable rogue elements in the military to steal and detonate nukes, which causes civil prolife with the shop of Barker evidence preferred, concludes that Pakistan's head of nuclear development is collaborated with Al-Qaeda, which all proves that even if broader nuclear terror isn't likely, it is for Pakistan. Kind of clip. 1 permanently votes to the President Shield policy to the GCS vaccine. 2 permanently counterpoint will be textually flexible competitive outer war allows for word pick the matter modification counterpoint to detect fairness education the only and all 16 flexibly word to be to express strong recommendations all these days rather than imposing there is no obligation. 3 cannot solve. A is that Biden says no. Henry 23 that Biden is permanently committed to get a view however without studying the thread that aesthetic of perception and our risk that Biden chose to continue to issue and if you B Biden does not listen but no impact. Shabbat 21 the top building leader recommended Biden to US and Afghanistan and McKenzie how the recommended ability to of GCS said they communicated with the advice of the president the gas to resign if the Biden against the advice building the attempt to responsibility to Biden did not have to agree, did not make the decision based on general. C. Certainty, only that removes adversary first years of democratization tracks kind of want to make crisis stability worse by attaching political conditions to assurances, which is the tangible evidence. 4. Perm to the point and counterpoint over another issue. Limited interest. This is good. Test the gervaneous of the link to the arbitrary net benefit that avoid based on the topic. It's inserted below. 5. Links to the net benefits independently. The 6. There's no internal net benefit. 8. The plan is in key 1 instance doesn't spill over and solve their offense and scenario has no link or impact uniqueness. B. Afghanistan dumb 18. Criminal crisis. The COR the party favor the crisis number 2 of the senior crisis that have made duplicated years of the constitution. That no one believe include the CMR issue the internet critic committed the international engagement policy. Debate 7. Condo with the voter causes strategy skewed by ruining the affirmative last chance to go into office and create the moral hazard shock and efficacy and 4. Context which made class multiple rounds of dispo solved by imposing strategic cost. 8. National populists generate and guarantee nuclear use. 22. Populists got the nuclear for uncertain stability turn to follow around the nuclear populists and provide the endeavors feature human civilization granted the ethical slide holder in the Cold War criminal rights and something on the general. Take the lead. The populists with the advice to establish and behave carefully towards foreign power gateway to internal political violence series of evil creates like a nuclear incident. The populists and the nuclear threats to harbor their opponents credibility they extended during these hours against our methods and traps even home and friends stop for now. Ask Mr. Burrow level the rebel the society theory assumption that nuclear threats we should the whole can eliminate for granted foreign powers to calculate to no longer be punished. Next is the damage. Your research. One no link, they support NFU, GZ16, and not a bonus area, because no French, undertake low French, it is 70% of the population, but their removal of US members from the Europe that they have really good award to give them news. Advanced proliferation goals will have few forms of NFU policy, strong sentiment that nuclear use is never justified. B, virtues is incredible. US adversaries always do not believe the US would risk retaliation, which is the federal evidence. C, plan Saul's aggressive nuclear postures direct NATO, McChryskin and Domin, 19 up here, NATO, cohesion, NATO, failure to be related, long creation, breaking various protective, very able to persuade Europeans to support peace, strength, these nuclear deterrence to cover down nuclear threats, revolve, uncertain South Asia that could turn undermine the deterrent. The Britain could rebuild and confidence into the US, NATO, and Russia, better routes where alleviate great power conflict and reassure allies. 2, there's no internal link. It says Latvia would ask for deployment, not that the US would say yes. Past pushes disprove. Sentence 22, that Russia invaded Ukraine, the Baltics, calling the big available NATO. Forces will not happen if received diplomatic officials and leading allies prove. 3, permanent sorry, that's correct. Okay, leading allies show many members including the US and not be for permanent basis will cost ability to be understand states not enough troops to rapidly and present to be highly provocative. Baltic states not get enough to will not get enough troops to create a division. 3, permanent basing is stumped. US based in Poland, Germany, and Lithuania should trigger perception. Troop deployments are broadly not unique, which all prove to disadvantage. Doesn't apply. 4, permanent basing is not destabilizing. Then 21 principal objection to that amendment. They put in assuming careful color and present that's something that already presented government of the region considered over one another. 4, the president of Germany is a multinational battle group in Lithuania since 2017. United company size American contingent that is present as well as units in Latvia and Estonia can hardly be considered destabilizing. 5, plan solves nuclear preemption, increases Russian modernization and aggression, but makes peace help inevitable, which is the Taylor evidence in the one I see. China. 1, the inevitable modernization of silos, Merv, of course, and January, the kind of ensure Chinese nuclear superiority, which is the travel evidence. 2, appearance is not credible. US China allies do not believe the US risk of retaliation, which is the better evidence. C, 3, that we solve the only internal link to China war is superior posture, decoupling French first, decreasing credibility of stable deterrence, but that's better. Mitchell, Tannewald, and Bowen 21. Taiwan said the nuclear threats are likely to be effective. The US is attempting to use the set of MTNW, that's after all, they can never prevent the capture of detection now and improve the US naval air power. Want the tower allows the US to rebuff courage, to rate the cost of the PhD to back off for good, even though likely play a greater role. Then nukes, B, its relation, reversing Chinese posture, slow Chinese aggression, and shift towards NFU, fear of US nuclear superiority causes the right to nationalism and stability, which is the root cause of our Chinese aggression, and enables the PLA to gain control and aggressive foreign policy. 4, that there's no link. A, China is seeking middle. 22, China is doing the business of the scope out of the reinforced opportunity realities. 4, China gets to see the US and against the ratified UNCLOS. The US never ratified UNCLOS. China's problem that investment in the international order. The breach is, I think, waste the country provinces that's quite a putting its effort into a large economic project. China has created a federal housing system where it provides trying to do so through the existing system. B, there's no chance of them beating Taiwan. No impact. Remember, 23, the risk of access to get Taiwan remains low. James spending considerable energy on roll of these 3 agreed off the peace plan for Ukraine and hope that China as a global mediator follows the visit. Iran and Saudi, where they get for the relationship. I like to reverse it, but I make the first the cost of war, put it in the prediction of this humiliating war, given the lack of having competent experience, and the risk. We're trying to emerging from lockdown and world economic slowdown, critical issues, something against the risk, kind of low the risk conflict that will lead the economy without access. The Eurosearch. Protection. And sorry, somebody back. 1, domestic opponents pay Biden this off now for Verjama. 23, Republican candidates united in attacking Biden this off from China. Trump told workers that Biden support of EVs and that they'll lose their job as China becomes the attack for long time money business receive kind of debates just negotiation. Question up on any future Republican administration. 2, November meetings down. Charisma 23, China and US as well. Talk to nuclear arms control November 6, Beijing, Washington, South Korea, engage to find a way to manage their way forward as the friendly competitors among China and Washington major concerns and Beijing. Nuke buildup. 3, Biden passing a few proposals thumb where Biden won't listen. 23, a few dispute that we always have that happening after remain Chinese official looked at the administration chance where using decoupling the pressure on the Pentagon and campaign to bring the committee on strategic competition. The Biden security difference intent on trying to put a direct reset to the war among Republicans. 4, the internal link is 0. PNPR designation requires both congressional houses to approve it, which a Democratic candidate would never allow, absent a 1 and C. Or 1 in our link card, the risk is 0. 5, polling crisis is gibberish, reject longitudinal impact on a warrant card does not say anything to cause distinction nor explain by the solid between new and back even. In the next speech, 6, there's no internal link, classic proofs that there's no internal link to anything broadly. 7, there's no weekend impact. Well, 20, there's no link to even extraordinary conversations that would impact on the war. The prices for a possible cause of war that likely bunch for the route of the US is separate bunch for recession and fought more than 20 state wars unrelated to the economy. The states not addressing cause of war that would have taken out of the last 5 states that wars relatively to be quick relative to victory. No matter what the country economic history may be, does not go to war. Let's say they use to the reason more, but this is probably motivation more towards the for security like when I gain out the war agrees with his believe the prospect of shifting against them. That card is marked against them. Risk of disease is low now in way 22. That's waiting for epidemic of disease level very low probability. The GCR complex of the median estimate for killing 1 million people to be 5%. Noi card is marked at 5%.
Awesome.
Yeah. Wall's card is marked with 0 too. Good for us. You all sent those out. So wait a second on that.
Okay. After that, we're going to take a little bit of time.
Cool.
Where's the wall card?
That's it. Probability of success.
Okay.
Oh, Hamza, I'm not sure if you heard, but they're taking prep after the cards are sent.
There's that.
Okay. Let me get them first. Just these 2.
The 2 cards, yeah.
Okay, let me put them in the dock. Give me a sec. Okay, I'm good for, or we'll start with that.
Prep? Okay.
And then, wait, hold on.
You just-
Okay.
Yeah, okay, good, yeah.
Okay, so you want me to do that? I think these are trash.
Really?
Yeah.
Like, actually?
Yes.
Let me see why.
Bro, like this, come on.
Okay.
None of these are responsive. Like this is like the best thing in my opinion.
So like this, they said this. Well, no. This is like, okay, fine.
So we're not doing this?
No.
So I do this?
Yes.
Okay, cool. 851.
Well, put that in chat.
Yeah.
Alright, the number prep. Can you hear us? Alright, Max and your mic should be good.
I gotta join the Zoom. Okay. First question, didn't read Swain on returns, right?
Didn't read what?
Swain.
Yes, did not read Swain.
Reasons to reject the team, conditionality,
I think just conditionality.
just conditionality. Okay. On case, you said you didn't win hotspots, just modernization being destabilizing. Why is modernization destabilizing when we've been building nukes for decades?
Modernization for China is destabilizing, and it's the first time China will have a credible ability to have nuclear superiority over the US, which is a uniquely destabilizing environment.
How many nukes does China have right now?
Currently about 500.
500?
Currently, yeah.
How many does the US have right now?
About 4,000.
Okay, so because the US has 8 times as many nukes, how is modernization threatening whatsoever?
Well, the funny thing about nuclear, like modernization, that they build more of them, which our evidence says that they get
They're
probably
gonna
the
build
2000s.
7 times as many nukes.
Yes, like the US and the Soviet Union in the Cold War. Independent of that,
How
the
long
evidence
has
says
it
that
taken?
MIRVs, not that long. Our evidence says it happened in the next few years. Independently though, it's about the second strike and deterrent capabilities.
Patently incorrect. Like,
I-
there's not a single card that says that.
You want to answer questions? Or independently says that
Which card?
silos, MIRVs,
Yeah, which card?
are all things
Which
that
card
mean-
says that they're gonna 7
more.
times their nukes in the
They're going to build up nuclear arsenal, which is like public information that this is what modernization entails. And
That-
independent
that's-
of that, they're
cool.
modernizing silos, which is the question of whether or not we
That
can
is
decapitate
not the
China.
claim you made. The claim you made was that they would be able to
Yes,
have
they're building more
7
nukes, and they're also getting better at stopping our nukes, which is what nuclear security
we
entails,
still
which is
have
credible.
8 times as many nukes as them. Like,
Yes,
why
and
does
if
that
our
matter?
nukes can't hit their nukes, we don't have nuclear superiority anymore.
Nukes can't hit their nukes.
What's the question? Nukes
That
can't
is-
hit our nukes. Silos
How
make it harder to hit
I
nukes.
don't think you understand how BMB works. China war is coming now. Why is it coming now?
Our evidence says that modernization and every internal link of the 1AC, conventional crisis going nuclear, nuclear
Again,
modernization,
they've been
all those
modernizing for
crises.
such a long time.
They have not been modernizing for such a crime time. They've been doing it for 2 years, and our evidence says it's motivated by U.S. nuclear.
They've only been modernizing their nukes for 2 years.
Modernizing past the minimum deterrent posture, which is what their past policy is, yes.
Well, what is the minimum deterrent posture? Who determines what that is?
That's what China's nuclear doctrine has been for the past 60 years, which is that nuclear weapons are purely for a minimal deterrent posture, which is what they've been doing in the past.
Okay.
And this is verifiable. We know how many nukes they've had in the past. We know how many they're building now.
How many are they building now? You can't answer the question.
Thousands of them, which is what the 1AC talks about.
Okay. Sure. The populism. Wait, which one?
No, keep going.
Okay. The populism add-on. How do you get to nationalist populism?
Populism, our argument is populists will inevitably take control of the White House just by virtue of one major party being populist now. They make war inevitable.
Okay, if populists take over the White House, why can't they just repeal the NFU and then use nukes?
Because durable fiat rocks.
Okay, interesting. Populism takes over the White House. What evidence says that?
Our argument is just that the entire Republican Party is a populist party. It's either going to be Trump or an equally reactionary Republican. Our evidence says that these populists would result in conflict, and that
What is populism? What do you think populism is?
populism, i.e., populism, people pandering to the majoritarian policies, broadly rejecting
People pandering to
the
the majoritarian policies is populism.
That's a symptom of populism. Our evidence is the entire Republican Party is populist.
Interesting. Okay.
Starting. You said AI on case is different from conventional weaponry. Is it like integration into NC3 or is it
Yeah.
enhanced counterforce
The one side of the 2AC is integration.
integration? No card says. Sorry. Stop. We took 443. We had 851 before. 408 sounds right, yeah. I just stopped prep. We've got 408 left. Thumbs up. I'm gonna send out the doc. just sent the cards. The order is the China deterrence TA, advantage 1, advantage 2. Wait, I'm going to take a moment of prep. Starting. All right, just stopped. I took 23. That means 3:45. Yes, okay, cool. That's math. Okay. Give me a sec, sorry, I'm just getting my doc back up. Okay. Is everyone ready? Okay, great. Hold up. I'm not ready. I need to get my camera. My God. Okay. Everyone's ready? Great. Okay. The DA outweighs NFU supports the Chinese invasion of Taiwan. The U.S. nuclear China will use nukes first to repel U.S. support for Taiwan, which causes full-scale nuclear war and extinction. That's root evidence. Successful Chinese invasion causes extinction through follow-on events independent of the war itself. Eastern 23, seizing Taiwan, BRT would carve out of sphere of influence, fall of Taiwan, and puts up the U.S. global leadership, breaking the alliances with Beijing, march towards the third world order, nuclear arms, racing with power, control, like in the world of three, can climb higher than anything previously in the world. Being sliding towards abyss, Japan could go nuclear, so go nuclear, no-go would be emboldened, Beijing would support no-go aggression, coercion could escalate the words, generating expand, nuclear weapons feel would focus reaching generations with alien Europe, NATO would frame against the U.S. governments and developing world, could topple leading the political balance of famine, totalitarian governments, it turns the case 1A of crisis and stability, Chinese perception of opportunity to invade Taiwan is a scenario for crisis and stability escalating the cost of war, or clear and maximize under U.S. nuclear ambiguity when NFT makes catapult the cable, which is healing with its happens. It also turns the Russia scenario as well, because logically, if the United States let China invade Taiwan, then Russia would pounce in NATO because they think that the United States' alliance credibility is shattered. B. Norms. Taiwan invasion causes wildfire blow and destroys the United States' global influence, which turns everyone into scenarios and turns from the rifle. When it then goes for the U.S. and beyond, despite U.S. region, Taiwan's small U.S. turning, U.S. particles, nuclear bullet for the U.S. can result in and lead to much more dangerous security environments. They say failure of first-use threats and deterrence is inevitable. I'll do the weak debate here. U.S. NFU makes invading Taiwan a rational gamble for China. It signals that we want to respond to conventional attacks on U.S. bases or territory with nuclear weapons, which makes China think that it can prevail in a conflict thanks to its edge in the local balance of power and the defender's advantage. Since our lots of evidence threats of nuclear first use create a unique psychological effect that conventional weapons cannot replicate, means the status quo creates a cap on conflict by making the states more functionally infinite. Threats of U.S. nuclear first use on the Chinese invading forces credible. Successfully deters invasion and does not escalate, even reverse carried out. We return the U.S. and forces determination of Taiwan, providing credible options to make China achieve superiority options to devise significantly escalation on a force and resolve together not enable China to see on complete given what is China vision is some quest logical being crystal and women seem crystal entities is credible only if you some force provide logic continuing fundamentally even setting up the nuclear strikes like if collateral damage to Taiwan this is easier to achieve. They say failure is inevitable. One, they can't say this. The premise of advantage one and the China superiority scenario is that the United States has nuclear superiority over China. Obviously, if that's not, they can't make this argument because it is diametrically opposed to the affirmative scenario. Two, first use is credible, and even if actual first use is limited military utility, the threat alone is sufficient. Possible to promote the U.S. on the individual promotes with there is no possible interest that would outweigh cost of first use or threat promotes complete first use with deterrence threat of first use. One can believe the U.S. should not apply first. Jeopardy the deterrence use long range deterrence threats separately to together first use of red option may be read. Conflict independent of other actual first use pertinent to the logical purpose policy leading blood. Reneging and extreme service and promotes with the convention scenario at present rate. Considering circumstances stakes leaders capabilities and no under no possible circumstances will be in the U.S. interest to employ. First, they say deterrence is not credible. incredible. Deterrence by retaliation, which is what this is arguing about, is completely irrelevant. We're about first use instead. They say they access the only interlink the Chinese award. That is wrong. First use is key. This first card about second strike or this Bowen piece of evidence is garbage. It is about the Tachin Islands, which is totally and completely irrelevant to whether or not China will invade Taiwan. Taiwan is a core national interest. China taking the Tachin Islands is totally distinct. The United States also has promised Taiwan through the Taiwan Relations Act that they will intervene on their behalf, so it is categorically different from territorial incursions. 2. Amphibious landing capabilities are key. China will only invade if they're convinced the U.S. will not use nuclear weapons. Weaver 23 for that to order invasion of Taiwan, we can enter U.S. using nukes to destroy Chinese forces invading, leaving peaceful landing, fierce concerns U.S. will use floating bombs against the leader right, heavy landing officer, using one of the nuclear attack. They say a relation solved and a few does not solve. China wants to take Taiwan, largely covered above. Yes, there is an invasion. Threat of U.S. nuclear first use prevents Chinese invasion in the first place. Weaver 23. The problem of the world perceived to be very high stakes. As war for Taiwan also poses threat of solution abuse, which is passive war and limited in post-exit rather than if not war for Taiwan was similarly limited terms. In terms of technical relation, whereas mother given returns alone and also parts going to use nuclear weapons for counter conventional superiority. The most important factor stopping a Chinese invasion is Xi's fear and uncertainty that the war can be won at an acceptable cost. Sailor 24. Whereas conflict will be there's no guarantee we must consider alternatives and the nuclear base for U.S. instead of trying to be strong using against for emphasis on important to take on. President is not means to suggest caution me what guarantee will not be and also risk has been but as you have fear minus I'm going to you use my unification is important, but the second this is far if has plainly in 2027 he will scrap if you believe in invasion at the party later and then fear can say Taiwan governments must be far more bullish.
That's actually. Yeah, okay.
The first piece of evidence about status seeking is completely irrelevant. They will still invade Taiwan even if they're a status seeking power, because they'll do so defensively or offensively. Regardless, this card does not mention Taiwan, so it's irrelevant. They say they can't beat Taiwan in a conventional conflict. This is a negative premise, not an affirmative premise. Our argument is that China will invade Taiwan, they'll get beaten out by the United States and China, and then China will launch nukes.
Eventually.
Do not reward obfuscation about how a nuclear war happens on the nuclear weapons topic. Emory does not have a clear story of which conventional conflicts happened, why a nuclear state would start a nuclear war after that. Illusion of first strike instability, system stressors, AI, what the fuck is not enough to constitute a scenario. They need to talk about a specific pathway the nuclear war escalates. A no first use policy is not credible. It is a perfect record of failure. When Russia, China, and India had an NFU, the US did not believe it. There's always a threat of pullback in the midst of a crisis. So there are also evidence it turns every affirmative scenario because each one is dependent on an NFU being perceived as credible by India, Pakistan, Russia, and China. Leaders lie all the time, which takes out their dialogue or remain consequent. Leaders believe that they can trust the state and if you leaders other than another, if they decide all support obviously nuclear war, having one trust when states are higher after Russia poison citizens, you can't prove the state of Russia is not a chemical agents for Russia adopt that into US and could US leaders believe in Russia's nuclear policy and chemical relations are false. Leaders take the whole of state that could be out of this impossible to say no matter what since your review. That really alone mistrust and anything could lead to mistrust in nuclear policy. Operational does not solve either because every nuclear weapon can be used first. Characteristic 19. The struggle of regular reverse will begin at times since the Cold War US and Russia changed the first criteria for being considered way. Let's say the second use fear would not be physically able to use first as alleged NFU with lower average sources into the reverse make their case on very thin ground. Hotspots argument is wrong, largely hinted above. No use or lose pressures. No rational statement of start a nuclear war. They know if they lose, it's their current evidence. They've said that the U.S. has immense nuclear superiority over Russia and China. There's no shot that they willingly enter a nuclear war when the U.S. would wipe them off the face of the earth. This also takes out the India-Pakistan scenario. States facing nuclear threats will always capitulate. Current 18. Do the arguments and ignore the overlook the back down. Elegant state has a choice between launching nuclear war or lose it. Playing the crisis and avoiding danger of for this discussion. We must leave the Jews for the whole desperately is not what the problem of keeping the war beyond it. In first state by the reason numbers, but risk never to avoid it. Combat elements is speculated more valuable than nuclear war that it is bound to lose. Our defense does not take out the deterrence. Larson 23 believes because leaders are killed. Different new choices feeling of makes someone relies on things. They can believe the right over the best out there. True rationales for using these first use limited. However, the big side of them means similar damages will be sufficient to avoid things if it be something this is concerned. With the second example of relation, this starts with enemies medical engagement. The eliminable needs nuclear escalation with the option for giving inferior outer service in simple option is preferable to conventional defeat. No accident scenario either. Federal resolve about conventional weapons like AI, quantum cyber attack that thumbs crisis stability. NFP does not solve accidents either because there are all causes like human fallibility, etc. It cannot prevent literal mistakes in NC3, and there are not any accidents on majority of this because there are tons of checks and redundancies in U.S. nuclear command and control. Arms racing and trolling is defensive, which will be proven by below, and there's no launch on warning in either the United States or China. Lastly, crisis stability now. It answers every scenario. 1. The nuclear revolution fundamentally changed the stakes of warfare. Each country knows that if they enter a nuclear war, they get obliterated, so there's no shot that they risk it. Deterrence relationships are stable. 2. Second strikes are secure. Technical elements have not caught up. Nobody's confident enough in their satellites or ISR to advanced surveillance capabilities do not change the politics that ornaments nuclear weaponry. That's our D'Ambroso evidence. No China scenario. 1. D'Ambroso says that China thinks nuclear war is unthinkable, especially true if the US and China came out in the international forum and stated mutual vulnerability holds.
false. 2. Modernization is defensive. China will just modernize the parity to restore nuclear deterrence with the United States. The affirmative should agree, stating that China is a defensive power. No Indo-Pak scenario either. 1. Arms racing is inevitable. Arms racing is inevitable. China is scared of India's defensive modernization and border skirmishes, and they're making sure that they keep up with Russia's nuclear capabilities as well. No Indo-China war argument as well. Mutually assured destruction checks, which is conceded by the 2AC, even if it is about India and Pakistan more broadly. No AI integration scenario. It is fake. It's not substantiated by evidence, and if it does not solve it, and it is extraordinarily far off. Lastly, no Russia scenario. It is stable. The fact that Russia's not invaded NATO because the nuclear deterrence holds. That's our damn Rosa evidence. There's no way that Ukraine will escalate unless Russia loses. And 1EC Class X even concedes that Ukraine defeat is not the scenario. Advantage 2. No modeling controlling. Their 1EC evidence is about disarm, not NFU, and NFU is incredible, so it is not perceived. They can't win the NFU is insufficient without a card. No modeling to trust 19 sovereign universities. Encroachment of the law, they studying the one adopting anything they did not want China, and Dr. Charlie Metaverse, and they're driven by security to gain these other countries' structures are used, legitimizing factors to delay abandoned NFU for field. Pakistan or China can use CVW. Lastly, no nuclear terror. 1. Pakistan will not collapse. They're stable. They have a democratic precedent. And 2. They're securing their arsenal. No loose nukes. Mueller 20. It is lucky even lost in the records and no loose nukes. Predator just controlling because it's a private records and it's all security versus even lifted laws will be noted in worldwide pursuit laws, cut the card, worldwide pursuit will be launched. 3. No nuclear terror. There are so many obstacles. More people have been killed by drowning than terrorists. They need to enter the black market who will betray them. They need top scientists, which are inaccessible and expensive, and even if they get weapons, they don't have technical means to launch them, and if they launch them, nobody will retaliate. That's our Mueller evidence. They say that loose nukes is not their scenario. How do nukes become loose? It's because of state collapse, which doesn't happen.
Cool. You give across?
Yes.
Okay, and can you hear us both? Sweet. Okay. First question. The disadvantage, if China loses the war, does the negative think that still goes nuclear, and if so, how?
If China loses.
China tries to invade Taiwan and loses, how does that escalate?
Yes, our 1C scenario is very much about a China loss. So China loses the war after they invade Taiwan. They get driven back to the mainland because the United States and Taiwan would think that they can fight a better conventional war because there's no chance that it goes nuclear since they've sort of declared an NFU, and then China would detonate a nuclear weapon once it receives
okay, well,
a regime threat.
I have several questions about that. First of all, what card points to that says that China would perceive a regime threat from the loss of the invasion of Taiwan?
I'll point you to 1C Matza.
Where does Matza say this? I'm reading it right now.
Let me pull it back up. I remember
and why you pointed up, I guess the secondary question I have here, the Eastern evidence, successful invasion, is it true that this relies upon China winning? Because Norm's argument seems to be contingent upon you winning that people need nukes to deter themselves.
Yeah, that piece is about China.
Okay, gotcha. I want to move on now to lower parts of the
I'm so sorry. It's not that Matza card, it's the blue card. The second card says, no, it's not. I lied.
Okay, actually, well, in the interim, while you're looking for that, question here.
It's fine. If you want to move on, we can move on to another question.
Sounds good, yeah, you can pull it up later. I guess, what's the card that says, okay, in a world where they get pushed back, is absent the card, just an explanation for it, U.S. first to deter them from invading and taking the Taiwanese mainland. Why does China's mainland government see that as a threat?
I think it's patently self-evident.
You think it's evident that China does not take Taiwan, means U.S. takes Beijing?
No, I just want to paint a picture here. China invades Taiwan. The United States and Taiwan are like, no fucking shot. I'm going to repel back into the mainland because you've decided to attack one of our allies. So the United States and Taiwan sort of push them back. China starts losing a conventional war, and the United States and Taiwan have penetrated the mainland.
You think
China would?
No, I want to stop there. What card do you think says that the U.S. would be willing to deploy troops in a mainland invasion of Beijing? Please, any line that alludes to that.
Not Beijing in particular, but the mainland for sure. Again, Matza.
You think the U.S. would put troops on the ground to defend Taiwan in a case where they've already beaten back the invading forces? You think that U.S. would deploy troops to conquer the Chinese mainland? What would you possibly stand to gain from this?
Yes, again, they would gain because they would make sure that Taiwan is inordinately secure. Again,
inordinately secure. So that means you're saying that the U.S. would go on, we deter them from the mainland, we then go on to try to regime change them? Because that seems like the scenario you're describing.
Not regime change them, but once we pierce into the mainland, we would for sure do that afterwards because a conventional conflict would get extraordinarily violent, countries would miscalculate, the United States would think, hey, there's an option to sort of aggress against China, and that is advantageous for us tactically to make sure China is not
sorry, in this scenario,
I do want to make it clear. We do have other scenarios that are outside of this Chinese invasion of the mainland. You pointed to the Eastern card that we read in the that was at the very top of the 2NC. More importantly, there are pieces in the 1NC card that say cyber operations, space operations, etc. all contain the potential for escalation as well.
Okay, let's cross. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, can we prep?
Yep.
Setting it up.
Oh, we're prepping.
Oh.
How much time do we have?
We have A51 remaining. We'll start now.
Okay, stop.
You wanna check it?
No.
Okay.
Stop. Okay, stop prep. Set the timer. So we have 6:38 open the top.
Okay. Sending out the winner. It's okay. Order is the JCS counterplan, the Euro search to set, and then the China trade to set. Oh, Akash, can you mute your mic?
My mic?
Yeah.
My mistake, yeah.
So you can hear me, right? Awesome.
I'm opening the text. Just
Okay.
a second. Okay, you said JCS Euro Surge, China trade.
Yeah.
Give me a second to open it up.
I've got it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Concede the purposes of competition, not going for conditionalities. Do we get one injunction, offense, one night flex, athletes, first class speech info, less athlete, speak the select the blockers, fairness, choose logic, the judge, be able to revert back to code 3, testing, refuting the athlete, multiple angles, watch better policy analysis 4, ideological flex, next only 3 minutes, risk, conditionality, prevents case and complex, defense, diminishing utility, compensate works for everyone introduced, not a litter, 3 kinds of substance. Populism. One, populism Adam was super stupid. They defined populism as quote people who pander to the majority. That's literally all politicians. It's not unique to. It's not literally by literally every single past Republican president. 3, no evidence that populism taking over the government. New, when aircraft need to new for our answers. 4, about the generals taking over the president wouldn't happen. President holds power over nukes. 5, the U.S. wouldn't broadly without preventive or preventive nuclear strikes. Enriching NFU does not mandate first troops on the case page. DOU surge conceive we don't want to send them conventional troops, and that troops are already there, not going for it. After it's not solved, just answer our case. Try to trade. Yeah, at least from China's permanent normal trade relationship status would instantly stop the massive across the board tariffs. That's place inflation, which prevents the US economy from achieving a soft landing that causes global trends of instability from global crisis, combining your power work and catastrophic climate change. Global inflation means the cost of debt servicing debt risk responses, resources in response to every single estimate, which is the double evidence. In turns case, one is substance. Trade escalation with China causes NFE rollback. Job 23. Would Biden get a department to reverse terms of this is one divided to use more hard to against China, please. China and also China, the Trump, the belief that China is bad China. To use companies in retaliation, the abuse, the company changes the proposed retraction of use. The section on Yoga reveals the reverse of development of advanced weapons that are expensive for Taiwan, suggestion that the China should do interference. No NFU. If the institutions level, why should make life for the US more comfortable? Two is signal the link loan turns case backlash to NFU being solved in China, setting distress, signal of increased US reliance on nukes. Robert 11. If the president of China and NFU hostile to have general policy debates, that's national security. The outcome of the table rather than presenting the world option that the US would be violating the rules of eco business for the conventional analysis. It might cause observers to withdraw, opposite conclusion, and it turns China war trade escalation, causes US China war. Well, firstly, US policy to Asian concerns to development on the other hand, US secure the benefits of trade, rather than of the military conflict, achieving foreign policy, but even central control, conflict codes, and US policy between the two worlds. One of the yellow to the war, the interest of aging leaders of dictator right, multiple forces, unit of the Cold War, launching China, and those connection with risk, average economic consequences, or the history of Cold War, China was a major dislocation in the Cold War, France, US policies, military warfare, peaceful economic coexistence in China, restrictions on which, and the first argument is that they are attacking now what the US will avoid escalating trade war with China now because Biden is supporting Republicans' demands for stronger good insurance is the key element of overall security strategy. This lets Biden avoid a full-on trade escalation, which only becomes a political imperative if there's a need to perceive offset weakness by security, which is the PUA evidence, and GOP rhetoric is irrelevant unless Biden chooses to embrace their agenda. On for two, so Biden following through China challenge after you don't have to look at policy making on looking tougher to override veto more than 2/3 and 1/3 but only to Biden stand firm rather than dictate it. And the summit thumper does not change nothing. Hirsch 11:15. When presidents and chiefs behind the scenes, little difference over China's and North Korea's biggest child trade, which is the violence of no charting on use to take over this while campaigning. Biden was the purpose of the target blue attack when turns every change out the early pushes to reform the difference is for war. No first seems off the table. Biden is expanding interest in insurance by the process more support of she did the little home media deal versus innovations cover. A measure covers the AI beyond that. Huge gulf remains Biden's into no turning top and on yet on negotiating. And Biden maintained the tough on China throughout the summit and lets them parry GOP attacks. The plan creates a concrete follow through, which is what matters because which was above the NFU past proposals. Link is about going through with it. The Warhawks ganging up on him and using NFU to trade for PNTR. Past proposals do not thumb because Biden never went through with NFU proposals. Link the NPR is not the NFU, which is not the link. The link, they've dropped it, pledging no first use triggers intense and immediate backlash by both parties against Biden's being pissed off on China. It's the reason his campaign promised to declare NFU hasn't happened. Congress thinks it undermined the deterrence and assurance, literally giving comfort to our enemies with the gold evidence. The operational NFU magnifies the link. Biden supporting modernization of a robust arsenal now to appear tough on China reversal allows GOP to force adoption of their anti-China priorities. Lead. For two, Republicans will athlete Biden by becoming more aggressive states, vision, let's say, conversation with China, vision, Republicans, the of everything. Words over the country into the China, with the American modernizing US arsenal, with the difference in the nuclear threats of China. Biden will build these 40 little movements, proposals, and treaty endurance. Biden take over to maintain scholars, but the little siege endurance for China, movements, later Biden's going to political manage better. Biden to basically sharp stance, Biden to hold proposals, political conditions, being more China, political opportunism, constraint, particularly Biden in Asia. The internal link, they've read no evidence on it. The internal link is strong, especially since the Tweety read no cards on it. There's latent appetite for broad tariff increases now, which is the 1C evidence, but Biden will keep congressional calls to revoke PNTR simply to bolster national security credit on China. Doge. For two, the U.S. Commission is calling to support China's trade markets, leads in front of the normal trade adoption recommendation was upset to 2 days relationship before the rule. Author of between superpowers rolling back PNTR system to the use of revoke MC, MFN and other national security so over the years under Trump. The report adds marker states on China both sides of the will carry Biden. Security strategy centered number one in China is number one challenge. The launch list impacts things, do not reject them. Clearly says warming and disease. They've dropped the warming impact, causes station through, making the war unlivable because of high levels of destruction of arable land. The poly crisis itself, driven by persistent inflation, caused global nuclear war populism that undermines responses and every other external risk for B22. Next risk may look different. Inflation persistent rather than trade sorting, raising waste will trigger a country making leave without the political populism creates over the United in China and Russia think of on civil wars now. They think about the major powers looming conflict over Taiwan. Put the card at Taiwan. The wall evidence is wrong. It's assuming 2020, the economic conditions of 2020 new inflation rates are unique, and that's what tips the scale, which is a brand's evidence. So the yes, disease impact, no, warrant in the Noi evidence just says that risk is low. There's no explanation for why it's low. For our evidence in relation to empirics and prove extinction, Kim. And I'll tell you what, evidence starting human life, 50% estimation experiments, all knows these lead to human extinction, black death, smallpox, SARS, and Ebola, a large population risk of increases with mobility, threatening human kind of students, person who appears to studies, everybody, so ask, I'm also not going to quantify. Hidden assessment no consider various disease characteristics result lead to human extinction. Even non-existential pandemics collapse aerosol massing, quick extinction, but first in 20. Rise to extinction, all the aerosol massing, the coolest 20% reduction, activities, T1 spikes, in a few weeks, sensitive heat waves, 1% to calls, each humankind choose to die, correspond. Crop failure, weak teachers on the brain, there, neuronal change follow. Where to lose all life on Earth. The wall evidence also does not apply. It's about econ war defense, which is not our impact here.
I don't think that the one in our doc is saved because there's not the turns case cards as far as I can see.
I will send those right now.
Is that the only thing that's missing?
Yeah, that's the only thing. That's what I added in the prep time. So.
Okay.
Why is that almost up the September?
You're sorry?
No, it's just like
I'm
setting the
saying
timer
it. I have to check the.
Oh, yeah.
It's a weird system we have at the time.
Yeah.
It's not ideal.
Wait, what the fuck?
You have to physically add every second to it.
That is pretty bad. Okay, turns case was sent.
Okay,
Cool.
open and I'll start. Okay, so. Actually, no, I still don't have it.
Okay.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Oh, I opened the same doc, sorry, it's
Okay.
the group.
It's a view doc.
Oh, yeah, I see.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll close it, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
I'm going to select D. Okay.
Okay.
Read the card added on the 30.
Oh, 38. Okay, sure. Once you
I started the card, you don't have to read on the.
just shines.
Yeah.
Okay. Once you select.
Okay, select. If you can't read all the cards, it's fine. On the but we usually can.
Okay. Stopped at 201. I'll put it in the chat and send it out.
Oh, good.
Sorry, yeah.
Wait, your partner from high school is watching? That's so cool and wholesome.
It's so wholesome, right? I love it.
yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Actually, I didn't realize he was here until like 20 minutes ago. Like he physically showed up, and Serena was like, "Oh, I saw him earlier," and I was like, "No, you didn't. He's not here."
Wait, is he physically here?
Yeah, he's physically here.
I think I did see him.
Yeah, no, I told you you were. Like, I was like, "There's no way."
How is he here?
He was gonna compete here, but then I think they had to drop. But they already had him his flight, so he just took the flight anyways.
What school is it from?
Northeastern, but he's debating with the Harvard team.
Oh.
Okay. I'm not muted. The one here said the order is the crisis stability advantage, modeling, the deterrence said, production system.
Give me a second to open up the doc.
Can you give me the order again? Sorry.
Yeah, for sure. It's the crisis stability advantage, modeling, deterrence, production system. Is everyone good? TUNC is hovering a posturing glide on warrants for reclusive scholars over junior Northwestern. Net if he was credible to aid posturing, visible shifts in military operations ensure the country see first strikes are impossible and declarations are politically costly to persons attainable to prove evidence. B is dialogue, instruments, the torturous evidence, the allow communications of intentions and reassure other states as a Kimball, attainable and benetic evidence or evidence does not assume the Russian China have asked for, which is the Pacelli and Taylor evidence persisting through multiple administrations checks the perception of your reversibility. China war is coming now and guarantees extinction. Rivalry, dynamics, reality, nuclear conflicts, B sides are eager to lie to mistake preparations for attack. That's benetic evidence. Yes, use and realistic perception used for preparation makes first use national and southern countries want to escalate, but rather they perceive that they have to because of things like arm placing and faulty LSW. Yes, it's reactionary evidence says yes, modernization is reactionary evidence says Chinese scholars and authoritative open source slate that identifies root causes as the fear of destabilizing first strike. They've dropped the modernization guarantees abstinence. A is tech advances, missile defense, cyber, and ASATs are all lower than nuclear threshold perception alone triggers overreactions. B is the AI warriors autonomy and integration trigger autonomous use US first use just the founder evidence. There's no explanation of what checks exist and they do not assume rapid modernization to the USSR or the reception of other states. Sino India arms hosting gives nuclear and its offensive. India's modernizing in response to China, which means if we win, we solve that it solves the terminal impact. It exacerbates the risk of nuclear conflict that China's equal powers and they have not read defense in this debate. Russia war escalates too. The one says that Russian modernization results in adopting deep swing technology and the misdiagnosis of potential spin strikes, but weapons on high alert and poorly tracking coming missiles. They are all words for weight. Even if Russia is rational, they would still go to nuclear because their modernization is existential and existential and only the plan solves all the arguments about net amount and deterrence holding will be answered on the dissent. The things that will be answered on the dissent and modernization is defensive is answered above. Arms raising is not at all be access the root cause after the conclusive literature that goes our way and walks up on the second advantage. Modeling and Indo-Pak war cause extinction. There is no applicable defense. NC3 delegation happens bad and makes first use rational, which means regional services actually, which is also evidence. No credibility is not taking out the disadvantage because all evidence speaks of adversary perceptions are allies. No modeling card does not assume any wrong sign. What you see evidence is explicit. Policy is directly modeled off the US rational for first use system may be ideal, but if you sufficient yes nuclear terror. It's not about state collapse. Pakistan delegates authority. Terrorist elements work directly with local commanders with nuclear control. Mueller is about Pakistan try again. TMW's success in circumvents technical nuclear cause extinction and circumvents bad as per the bar to evidence. Taiwan deterrence collapse is collapsing now. Case that China is gaining technical advantages which together superiority through Syria. I believe that even if China's return now, the Europeans got to be in the future. For me, it's just that only the way they win the war is nuclear is if they win that China wins the war. No Eastern scenario relies on China winning the war, which causes fears. China losses to the impact of China as China to win the war. If they lose the war, it would reinstate global norms and prove the nukes are unnecessary. No risk. China uses nukes. Process was embarrassing. Contingent upon threats to the Chinese mainland, which would never happen. I mean, solely conventional since we have it in a few. Space and AI, except the 2 did not read a total impact to what it's where we like, but when it's the evidence of Ross in space attacks can also be the US has some new view, which means there's no world where it goes nuclear. China would invade Taiwan and they would not win. 2 surrender is the biggest factor in the stopping invasions and the certainty that the war can be won. That exists independent of the plan. 1 international reputation. G that wants China to be seen as a global invader, approved by the Middle East and Ukraine invading. Taiwan reverses the modern victory. 2nd, lack of common experience and massive economic hits to turn facing international response to the war in Ukraine shows G the cost of invasion is forever evidence. And also the newest military reunification methods are dead ends. Or 22 China likes capacity had to win about building. However, this is based on the such a total would allow to take hundreds of thousands of Chiefs. Taiwan would weigh 1.2 million soldiers, thousands of ships and lands, and would take weeks special procession of fraction of their ships landing. And their sites of Black Sea Mountains areas. China could impose economic embargoes of blockade and the blockade economic downturn and Ukraine fears blockade. And 23 she is the worst petition would end with backfire. China is under severe economic pressure. We've forgotten the time she has threatened to unify, but China won't. War is expensive and not easy to work over with. And China's export market trying to opt in priority for leadership is to strengthen the economy will honey for to the economy to be aware of the war solidarity running quality dangerous. The CCP won't interact with and won't invade voice 23 fears that China would invade are overblown voice speakers is actually the race cross national studies so little evidence of leaders studying hostilities to whip up support authoritarians. And the leaders have a latitude to repress people rather than workability of interest. China response to draconian COVID-19 is a case of way the government makes restrictions China leaders have given views on security by prompt slash the CCP side to reject confidence. The evidence is marked a confidence. The conventional solves they've hand waved away any conventional solves war by bringing in new cards saying nuclear is deterring. That doesn't prevent so it's not. When you see better evidence, we see most deterrence by reinvigorating conventional forces. China can't stage invasion successfully. Only 22 planets. China possesses some. Actually, I read that card above. The British just said there's not a total impact. There's zero internal explanation of how soft landing saves off their competition effects and zeros. They just said no existential diseases. That's the right evidence finishing or estimated probably extinction of risk everything the extra user 0.01%. Chemistry assumes 100% infection rate. Nor says that there is zero risk of that. There's no war. Well, assumes high inflation. Even in the worst cases, countries with defensive inclined to turn inwards rather than escalate conflicts. Can't go for populism scenario because all concede defense of the DCS got to win no warning daily. And then turning to the new study confirms the worst case climate scenarios will legally have what future will be warmer, but it cannot accomplish sufficient time for perception to drive scenario which emissions would reduce carbon to 1400 ppm. The evidence is at ppm doesn't turn the case checks for back, doesn't turn the signals CBMs overcome and CBMs check, and the outcomes any scenario for nuclear escalation. It is not unique. Republicans are already taking every opportunity to face China as soft on to face Biden as soft on China. 80 and diplomatic visits we were to Benjamiri evidence in the 1C Biden has already been criticized by the 23 as balloon for China continues to fly over Biden. Face growing pressure. Republicans need to take target action against Beijing. China for Biden to stop coddling and appeasing the Chinese communists. Critics them as the Republicans form a House Select Committee on China to investigate French the argues has not done enough. Their uniqueness arguments are the group evidence is too old. It's predicted just one random official saying Biden will act as an issue. Xi talks Han and Lee are also ill-approved. Biden can withstand pressures and neither says a break for when Biden starts carrying talks the U.S. and China held dialogue on broader and nuclear cooperation, which is Komatsu evidence, or they just really because Biden is and will be continued to be portrayed as soft on China, which is wrong. It's for criticism. Came 11-13. Biden focused on building alliances and kept Trump's terrorist Biden describes Xi as a dictator. Republicans already hunting their attacks to describe him as being weak on China. There is no the bill will pass. Our cards as a commission recommended, which means nothing. Otherwise, I agree that people likely will happen. Will pass. Too controversial. Holiday 12-13. Conservative Republicans clearly shared together voice of reason and Christians concerned about going down a partnership path, which I can never has heard. And the state Republicans was so, and its argued panel was not actually recommending a repeal. The evidence is marked to repeal.
Cool.
Probably, but it doesn't matter because I think this would probably be cleaner. There's so much less on this.
Yeah. I'm gonna quickly send out a card, and I'll be good to go.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to say.
Oh, yeah.
So the order is the China Deterrence DA, the Protectionism DA, Advantage 1, Advantage 2. Hamza, are you good? Alright, 1 second. Cool. Everyone's ready? Awesome. Yeah.
Nuclear deterrence is a statistical counterplan that solves the entirety of the case. It is the force that has fostered great power peace for the past 70 years. But the plan is the only thing that can depend it. A no first use policy leads to a Chinese invasion of Taiwan. They'll invade Taiwan because they want to and they view it as a part of their country. But if the United States offers a first use threat, they think that the costs of a conflict are infinite in magnitude. But if the United States' conventional deterrent is the only thing that it contains to repel a Chinese invasion, then China will perceive the cost of a Taiwan conflict as calculable instead of infinite. There are two scenarios for extinction if China invades Taiwan. One, it causes a nuclear war. If China does invade Taiwan, the United States and Taiwan have enough conventional capabilities to beat them back. They will repel into the mainland, which is pretty much conceded. They'll deploy cyber and various forms of weaponry to make China feel various counterforce and regime threats, which means they'll detonate a nuclear weapon. Those are one of Timat's evidence. It's been conceded throughout every portion of the debate. Two, it leads to an authoritarian global order. If China does in fact win the war in Taiwan, it will generate space wars, populism, etc. Because an authoritarian global order is just substantially less stable than that of a democratic one, where there are checks and balances, and authoritarian leaders fosters cautious personality, so they're more likely to go to war. It turns the case on multiple levels. They've conceded that it turns advantage 1 because the scenario for crisis instability is a Taiwanese invasion, and it also draws in Russia because they'll think that if China invades Taiwan, they'll be able to crack NATO because the United States' alliance credibility is shattered. It turns the norms advantage as well because the Taiwanese invasion would shatter the United States' norm setting ability across the globe, so India and Pakistan would obviously not model. It outweighs the case categorically. The affirmative has been ambiguous about their internal links throughout the entirety of the debate, and we've been concrete about our internal links throughout the debate, and you should reward us instead of Emory for hand-waving about the scenario for nuclear war on the nukes topic. They say that the only scenario for a nuclear war is if China wins. That's wrong. We've read a very good piece of evidence that says that if China loses, they would engage in gamble for resurrection. That's the card that I read on case when answering the use or lose piece, and also it was the one of Timat's piece of evidence that is excellent in this question. The Eastern evidence, which explained above, they would pierce the mainland because the United States and Taiwan would think that they can beat back China and engage in tactical advantages, and they would also deploy other conventional means to provoke China into launching a nuclear weapon as well. They say there's no cyber or AI impact. It is the exact same scenario for crisis instability, the very conventional scenario. The case isolates, i.e. it replicates counterforce spheres because those things can be used and targeted at nuclear C2 facilities and lock China out. They say that China will not invade Taiwan. This is the crux of the debate, and it is a non-starter. The Tweezy has played shitty cards about it. The 1A has doubled down on it. I'll make a few arguments to make this crystal clear. One, they cannot say this. The 1AC contains a China scenario. The only scenario for a Chinese nuclear war is Taiwan. In 1EC Cross-Text, I explicitly asked which hotspots are going to go nuclear. They cited Taiwan as an example of that. They can't back off that and say that China is not going to invade Taiwan magically. That's a double turn. It is a performative contradiction. Whatever words you want to use, they can't say this argument, and you should scratch it off your flow. 2, this does not assume the link. The costs of a nuclear confrontation are infinite in magnitude, and their evidence does not assume the withdrawal or the establishment of an overseas policy. If the only means of deterrence that the United States possesses are conventional in nature, then China will for sure invade Taiwan because the costs are substantially lower, and they want to reunify the mainland. There are salient pieces of evidence that said the only condition and the necessary condition for which China will invade Taiwan is if they can perceive there to be an acceptable cause for Taiwanese invasion. If the United States is no longer proffering nuclear first-use threats, then they would think that there's an acceptable cause to invading Taiwan. It's phenomenal. That's question 3. Our Weaver piece of evidence says that China can invade Taiwan, and its material and physical capabilities, regardless of economics, international regulation, etc. China will think of invading Taiwan using an amphibious landing force. The only way that the United States and Taiwan can beat that back is through a tactical nuclear detonation. We've read multiple cards about this. The affirmative has not responded to it. So China would think that they can get on to the Taiwanese mainland and conquer Taiwan if they have the credibility of that amphibious landing force. The only way that the United States can deny that is through nuclear first use. They say in international regulation they would still invade Taiwan even if they're status seeking because they think that Taiwan is theirs, so it still fits under that model, and their 2C piece of evidence does not mention Taiwan. Yes, they do have enough combat experience. They have an amphibious landing force with which they can invade Taiwan. They say reunification is impossible, that an economic downturn in Ukraine fears, etc. All of these cards are dog shit, and reunification is possible because they have an amphibious landing fear. An economic downturn is totally irrelevant. The CCP will invade because they think, because Xi has staked his credibility on it. They say conventional doesn't solve. Conventional does not solve because nuclear weaponry and nuclear deterrence is categorically different from a conventional deterrent. Protectionism advantage. I'm not going for conceding impacting on the China trade deal. I'm not going for it. Advantage 1. There's no scenario for conventional conflict at all, which means the DA outweighs. First, use or lose is fake. 1. No country would rationally enter a nuclear war that they know that they lose. China, Russia, India, Pakistan, etc. would not start a nuclear war that they know they lose if the United States or an adversary has nuclear superiority, which puts a cap on conflict. 2. There's not a false binary between using and losing nuclear weapons in a catastrophe. The adversaries can always capitulate to the brink. Russia and China can capitulate to the United States' demand, so there's no need to escalate. It does not take out the deterrence because there are scenarios about a gamble for resurrection. Now, crisis stability now. It takes out the Russia and China scenario. 1. Second strikes are secure. Dropped by the 1AR. The United States does not have enough capabilities to eviscerate China and Russia's second strike, so there's no shot that Russia or China would feel use or lose pressures. 2. There's no tech development either. Surveillance has not reached the capacity by which it changes politics and the nuclear revolution and the findings by such. It does not change the political underpinnings behind the nuclear revolution either. There's no Jean Bruce. No accidents. It's about conventional weapons. A no-first-use policy cannot solve accidents. There are checks, like tons of redundancies, and various leaders that they have to call on, and they have not read a card about AI integration for the affirmative because their fun evidence is about AI counterforce. The China scenario, the 2 pieces of evidence that they've read are modernization. Modernization is fundamentally defensive. Also conceded AI checks are largely anti above. No sign of India. They're all costs deciding when to get arms racing because China is scared of India's defensive security measures as per their evidence, so they would modernize regardless. And the Russia dyad is stable because NATO, because they haven't invaded NATO, which proves that the deterrent is holding up. Advantage 2. No modeling states or security seeking, which is conceded. The 1EC evidence is also about disarmament, not an NFU, so there's no interlink. There's no India impact because I said that mutually assured destruction solved. It's dropped in 2EC on the other page. Then each skirmish is an example of the stability and instability paradox, which means that nothing is going to escalate. There's no terror impact because there's a chance of state collapse or low-level commanders giving nuclear weapons over. There are no loose nukes. And nuclear terror is a facade made up. We have how much?
201.
201. Starting now.
I got stand.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks. Okay, people come to order? Okay, I'm going to go for the advantage 2, and then it's going to be the disadvantage. I just was unmuted, so you didn't get any of that. Sorry, let me get the order again. It's advantage 2, the DA. Cool, are we good to go? Perfect. You're voting affirmative because we have the only nuclear war impact in this debate that 2NR has mishandled the Pakistan scenario. I'm going for it because it's gone fundamentally mishandled from both time allocation and argumentative choice. The 2NR spent 20 seconds on the entire advantage, but half of it on a different scenario, while the 1NR spent double the time explaining our specific internal links and finding specific evidence to be that this debate should be a crush. The only argument they've gone for on the terminal impact level is that there is no nuke terror. The first thing I want you to do after I sit down from this 2AR is read the 1AC Shapu evidence. It is ungodly good and hyper-specific, which circumvents all of the generic no nuke pro-loop defense. It says that quote-unquote a crisis situation provides quote opportunities for non-state actors to get their hands on TNW, and that the risk is quote very real and credible. It then goes on to say that Pakistani forward deployed TNWs are unique because they are solely under the control of commanders who are compromised by jihadi sympathizers. It cites empirical examples like the head of Pakistan's plutonium reactor actively working with Osama bin Laden about nukes and working with insider military elements to attempt to steal a nuclear naval base. This obviously overwhelms the 3 seconds that 2NR spends on saying nuke terror is a made-up impact. Not true for Pakistan, and prove that it's not contingent upon state collapse. As long as Pakistani nukes are forward deployed, which is what the Thacker evidence says is the internal link, commanders will steal them even if the state continues to exist because of loose command and control, which means only the affirmative can solve existential impact. They've conceded that nuke terror will go existential and entomb the globe, which proves that we have a functionally conceded terminal impact which should outweigh all of their impacts. The only other argument here is 5 seconds of modeling the 2NR. It is absolutely no risk. They've conceded that it's a question of general credibility. Man evidence to diverse causal conclude that they model the U.S. nuclear policy based on U.S. strategy shifts, and they conceded that their re-highlighting is solely about how TPNW would be more desirable, but does not say that the plan is insufficient, which are all sufficient to prove that we absolutely solve their impacts. This means affirmative impact must categorically outweigh. I will show in this advantage that they don't have a nuke war impact, which means that even if you think at the end of the debate that there is a risk that China goes to war with the U.S., that is a conventional conflict which can never outweigh an impact that involves the nuclear entombment of the globe. But eventually, when they haven't read any impact defense to what happens after a nuke terror strike occurs. You should prefer gratitude because it's the only thing that matters. Shuffling deck chairs and Titanic should never be preferred because they wipe out the possibility for future lives. Any risk that we're correct or impact must dramatically outweigh theirs because only our impact means that we cannot live to fight another day. Disadvantage. The second thing you're going to do when you open this card doc is going to look at the negative card doc and find a card that says China would be willing to use a nuclear weapon because that's the central question of their terminal impact debate. There is no universe that acts as a terminal impact, which means that 2NC cross-examination should be pretty damning on the fact that they just don't have an impact here. The only possible scenario where their war goes nuclear would be China launching first because the durable fiat means that the U.S. can't use nukes in a road of an NFU, which means China will be forced to do so. This is laughable. There are 0 cards that say that the U.S. will be willing to try to seize Beijing, which is the win condition that they have set for themselves coming out of the 2NR. Our evidence all says that China A would not invade in the first place, but B would simply be repelled on the island because the US would China and would work together to stop an amphibious assault. There are cards 0 in this debate that says the US would try to put boots on the ground to annex a country of 1 billion people who has hundreds of nukes, which all prove that our impacts must categorically outweigh and all disprove the notion that there is a risk that their conflict goes nuclear. I'll respond to the turns case here. They all rely upon winning, that China wins the invasion, which was explained above. If China loses the invasion, they wouldn't escalate because the US would simply stop them outside of Taiwan and there'd be no escalation scenario that emerges. The AI cyber stuff is not offense for them. Our impact is about AI launching nukes. We've conceded their impact defense, which means it doesn't matter. The 2NC link and 1NC do not have a terminal impact to it, nor was it explained as to how China launching cyber attacks on the US would drive China to launch a nuclear weapon on the US, which all prove that this is quite literally 0 risk absent any better contextualization. This all means that our impact must categorically outweigh and disprove the notion that China would be willing to invade. I'm now going to prove that there is no risk of China invading because they are simply getting massively outcarded in this debate. The framing issue here is that the negative read a bunch of pieces of link evidence that all assert that China is scared of nukes, which could be completely true, but they do not prove that China would believe they can win a conventional fighting war, which is the frame for evidence that you must evaluate. You should throw their evidence out if they don't explain the intricacies of why China would invade or whether China believed they could win the war. They've read a bunch of cards from Warhawks that assert that the second nukes would go away, China would go to invade, but none of them are contextual or specific, and they all assume that China believed they would win the war, which is clearly not true due to the slew of one-year cards that are fantastic that we've read. The first thing is that we can't say it. This is a dumb argument. One of these scenarios does not have the word Taiwan in it once. We have said hotspots generally escalate and that conflict in general escalates, not that China would win a war over Taiwan, which is certainly not a one of these scenario. At worst, it's just prove the China scenario is bunk, which is irrelevant because you cannot go off that scenario with the 2 and R. The second argument here is that China would invade anyways because it's a question of infinite risk and infinite downside. This is a terrible model of how states analyze, not how anything works. China is not a dumb actor. They are irrational and decide whether or not to invade based on whether or not they can win, not whether or not they have infinite costs of a nuclear war. Our evidence is all proving that China does not believe they can win because the conventional force that they would have to do to launch an amphibious invasion will be dramatically overwhelmed by US and Taiwanese combined forces. The Oman evidence says that China knows reunification would fail because of the conventional difficulties of launching an amphibious invasion and the fact that US troops are persistent to stop landing on the island. It said that China wouldn't even move towards invasion in the first place because they recognize that deterrence would stop them from making a beachhead on any of the island, which prevents them from seizing the nation overall. The evidence, the Adlock evidence, speaks to internal Chinese incentives, which none of their evidence speaks to, and concludes that even if China in the abstract wants Taiwan, none of it's likely to occur because they all believe that the current economic downturn means that they're uniquely precarious right now and would not be willing or capable of winning a war against 2 major powers. The third card is the Weiss evidence, which takes out the notion that China would just invade for the hell of it. Our evidence says the CCP has no intractable demand to seize Taiwan, nor do they believe that their legitimacy depends upon it, but rather they would only invade if they think they would be likely to succeed. It concludes, the Weiss evidence concludes that China is a rational actor who has heard as long as conventional forces remain constant, which means that overemphasis is far more qualified, specific, and better about their scenarios being wrong. The cost of evidence they've extended just says nukes are scary, conventional attacks are also scary, which is why overemphasis takes internal Chinese documents that all prove they wouldn't be willing to launch a conventional strike. They say that the US would use a TNW. This is not the only way of deterrence, because our entire wall is about how US would not need to use TNWs to deter China, because conventional forces all make it impossible for China to effectively launch a beachhead. The 2NC has a very few cards in this debate that they've read about whether or not China could successfully succeed in an election, which proves that invasion simply would not occur. Great video.
Good debate, y'all.
Good debate.
That was in the card doc. Oh, how that was in the card doc.